Lesson on science. I hope you're all having a good day. And today we'll start off by learning on what photosynthesis is. And then we'll transition onto respiration and the circulatory system. And finally, we will do a review of physics. So, today we should explore our learning objectives. As you know, our first topic is photosynthesis. Learning objectives. To comprehend what photosynthesis is. To understand how plants have adapted to photosynthesis. To know the formula for photosynthesis. To know why plants need photosynthesis. To know what the xylem and phloem is. To develop knowledge on what may show up on an exam. So, what is photosynthesis? Unlike humans, plants don't have a mouth. Despite this, they still have to make energy. This applies to all living organisms. Yes, fungi. Yes, bacteria. Yes, mammals. Yes, birds. Yes, plants. All of these living organisms, yes, have to make energy. Even yeast, which is a living organism, needs to make energy. It is true that energy is vital for movement, reproduction, growth, and many other functions that must be fulfilled. So this is why all herbs do photosynthesis, to get a sufficient amount of energy. So, what exactly is photosynthesis? Photosynthesis is the process by which plants use sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide to create oxygen and energy in the form of glucose or sugar. So, you may be curious on what the formula for photosynthesis is. Well, it is 6 CO2 at 6 H2O, making C6H12O6 and 6O2. So the word equation is carbon dioxide and water makes glucose and oxygen. So why is photosynthesis vital for our and a plant's survival? Well, whilst plants absorb CO2 for photosynthesis, they release O2, which is oxygen. This can reduce carbon emissions and aids us in many ways. For example, when we breathe out carbon dioxide, this occurs due to gas exchange, plants can change this compound back into oxygen. Exactly all cells in our body need oxygen to create energy efficiently. To sum this vital slide up, we must understand that photosynthesis is important to living organisms because it is the number one source of oxygen in the atmosphere. Without photosynthesis, the carbon cycle could not occur. Oxygen requiring life would not survive, and plants would die. The importance of photosynthesis in our life is the oxygen it produces. So, let's move on how photosynthesis occurs, how sunlight is absorbed, because as we know, sunlight is vital for photosynthesis, because there are many factors that affect the rate of photosynthesis. And these include carbon dioxide rate, sunlight rate, or light rate, what else do we have? H2O, water rates, and how efficient it is if we have an abundance. And actually, what did I just say? Yeah, CO2, yeah. And I hope the last factor comes to my mind. But yes, photosynthesis occurs in the chloroplast. The chloroplast is filled with an abundance of chlorophyll. And this chlorophyll allows the absorption of light to occur. In other words, chlorophyll is a green pigment that is responsible for the absorption of light. Now, plants have adapted for photosynthesis in many ways, but the key ones are listed below. They have a large surface area for maximum light absorption. the presence of chlorophyll containing chloroplast. They have a thin structure or a thin leaf, short distance for carbon dioxide to diffuse into the leaf or cells, the stomata that allow carbon dioxide to diffuse into the leaf and oxygen to diffuse out. Moving on to the xylem and phloem. So explanation 1. Plants have tissues to transport water, nutrients and minerals. Xylem transports water and mineral salts from the roots up to the parts of the plant, while phloem transports sucrose and amino acids between the leaves and other parts of the plant. Explanation 2. Xylem transport water and mineral from root to the whole body of the plant. Its basic function is to move water from roots to leaves and shoots. Phloem transports food materials to the whole plant body. Its basic function is the transport of food from source tissues. The xylem is orientated towards the adaxial surface of the leaf, usually the upper side, and phloem is orientated towards the abaxial side, surface of the leaf. So let's have a brief summary of the previous slide. Tissue, xylem. What is moved? Water and minerals. Process, transpiration stream. Tissue, phloem. Sucrose and amino acids. Process, translocation. Exam style questions on xylem and phloem. What does the xylem transport in a plant? Well, the xylem transports water and mineral salts. Phloem transports water and dissolved sugars. What is transpiration? Transpiration is the evaporation of water from the surface of a plant, such as from its leaves. The movement of water is the transpiration stream. How do root hair cells absorb water? By osmosis. What is the movement of sugar for a plant called? Translocation is the movement of dissolved sugars for a plant. Translocation is the process of production of proteins in ribosomes. What happens to the transpiration rate as temperature increases? Well, it increases. The transpiration rate increases. How are the xylem and phloem arranged in plant roots? They are arranged in the center of the root. Why does water loss slow down if a plant is put into a plastic bag? The humidity increases. What happens to the rate of transpiration if the wind speed increases? There's a correlation. The rate of transpiration increases if the wind speed increases, whereas the rate of transpiration would decrease if the speed decreases. So, why does the rate of transpiration increase if the light intensity is increased? Well, the light intensity increases the stomata open wider to let more carbon dioxide into the leaf for photosynthesis. It does not affect the humidity. If the humidity did not increase, it would reduce the transpiration rate. Now remember, the stomata regulates gas exchange. Worth noting, photosynthesis is an endothermic reaction, as it requires light energy to react to carbon dioxide and water to produce glucose and oxygen. The light energy required is absorbed by a green pigment called chlorophyll in the leaves. Most photosynthesis takes place in the palisade mesophyll, which is conveniently located at the top of the leaf, just under the epidermis. Which cells are on top of the leaf? Cells in the mesophyll layer of the leaf are protected by the epidermis. Yes, an outer layer that acts as a barrier regulating what enters and leaves the leaf structure. The epidermis, that is on the upper side of the leaf, produces a waxy cuticle that prevents the water from escaping the plant's leaves. So what's worth noting? Slide 2. So what's the role of the mitochondria? It releases energy for the cell to utilize, and respiration occurs there. Chloroplasts carry out the process of photosynthesis, which involves using light energy from the sun to make glucose. The green pigment that absorbs the light energy is called the chlorophyll. This is what makes plants green. Summary of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is a multi-step process that requires sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water as substrates. The energy from sunlight drives the reaction of carbon dioxide and water molecules to produce sugar and oxygen, as seen in the chemical equation for photosynthesis. So on the next, below you'll find attached a video on photosynthesis. Make sure to watch it, and then you can move on to respiration. Welcome to the second part of this video. Welcome to the second part of this lesson. Now we will be covering respiration from biology. Now make sure to take notes. I didn't remind you from last video, but if you have a notepad by any chance, make sure to write this if you have an exam or anything. This will aid you. So write some notes, write everything you need, write notes. Notes aid everyone. Notes aid. Alright. So make sure to write notes and enjoy the lesson. So we're going to start off by explaining how respiration and its releasing of energy and all the circulation system, the breathing system, the anaerobic respiration, summary activities all overlap with respiration and all are part of the topic. Now, I'm not sure why aerobic respiration is included on here. But anyways, how is food used by the body? The body needs a constant supply of energy, which comes from digested food. Glucose from digested carbohydrates is an important substance that contains stored chemical energy. When glucose reacts with oxygen, a lot of energy is released. In the body's cells, glucose and oxygen reacts to release energy. Some of this is released as heat and the rest is used by the cells. The release of energy from glucose is called respiration, which is today's topic. So what is respiration? Respiration is the process that the body uses to release energy from digested food, glucose. So glucose plus oxygen makes carbon dioxide plus water, and byproduct would be energy. Now this is the formula for aerobic respiration as it uses oxygen, and we'll get into detail on what oxygen and what respiration is later on. But make sure to jot down that respiration is the process that the body uses to release energy from digested foods, glucose. Make sure to jot this down as this is vital information and may pop up on your exam. Right, so jot this down and make sure to jot down the word equation. So glucose comes from the digestive system. The oxygen comes from the breathing system. Carbon dioxide is a waste product exhaled. And energy is a byproduct. Right, so jot this down and let's move on to the next slide. Oh, never mind, we still have a bar on this one. So this type of respiration is called aerobic respiration because energy is released with oxygen. So the difference between anaerobic and aerobic respiration is that aerobic respiration utilizes and makes use of oxygen, whereas anaerobic respiration doesn't use oxygen. So how do the glucose and oxygen needed for aerobic respiration get to all the body cells? So complete the word equation for aerobic respiration. Cover up your previous word equation and write it down in your notebook. As you know, aerobic respiration utilizes oxygen. A byproduct, as I mentioned, is energy. It also utilizes glucose, releasing carbon dioxide and water. Oops, and this is in the wrong place. It was meant to be here. That's fine. Let's just quickly get rid of this here. Oh, there we go. Perfect. So, comparing respiration and combustion. Burning is the reaction between a fuel and oxygen. The reaction is called combustion. Fuel plus oxygen makes carbon dioxide plus water plus fire. Now, remember, now this is just a random point that I'm going to quickly bring up just in case you do not catch fire. So, comparing respiration and combustion. Burning is the reaction between a fuel and oxygen. The reaction is called combustion. Fuel plus oxygen makes carbon dioxide plus water plus fire. Now, remember, now this is just a random point that I'm going to quickly bring up just in case you make this mistake. Never write equals in chemistry unless you're doing some mathematics. In chemistry, you always have to draw this line. I just had to remind you just in case. So, when something burns, heat and light energy are released and carbon dioxide and water are also produced. So combustion is similar to respiration. However, combustion is different because it is not a controlled reaction. Respiration is a controlled reaction, which slowly releases energy from the fluid in the body's cells, and the cells do not catch fire. Hey, so we have officially covered the first part, which is releasing energy. Let's move on to the circulation system, which overlaps with respiration. Right, so the dissolved foods and oxygen needed for respiration are carried around the body by the circulation system. The circulation system includes the blood vessels, the heart, and the lungs. Which part of the circulation system actually carries dissolved foods and oxygen around the body's cells? I'll give you a minute or so to answer this. If you answered capillaries, then you're correct. The blood carries oxygen and dissolved foods to all the body's cells so that respiration can take place. Blood enters the capillary bed, blood leaves the capillary bed. Now make sure to draw a diagram of this or a very brief one. Pause this video if you need extra time. So blood cells are marked in red and body cells are marked in this yellow. So blood cells are close enough to all cells to provide them with oxygen. This is transferred to all cells in the body through a very thin cell membrane. The heart is made up of very special muscles called cardiac muscle. This is because it has to keep beating for the whole of a person's life. If you try to do the same action repeatedly, like the heart does, your muscles would get tired and after a while stop working. For example, if you get clenching and unclenching your hand, it will get tired and may even start to cramp. Why is it important for respiration that heart keeps beating? Well, with each heartbeat, the heart sends blood throughout our bodies, carrying oxygen to every cell. And remember, all muscles need oxygen. What happens to the pulse rate while someone is running? The body, I'll answer this. It normally increases as more oxygen must be transported around the body. So oxygen can be transported to cells and muscles. The body needs to release more energy, so oxygen and glucose need to reach muscle cells quickly. So blood is pumped around the body faster, so the pulse is faster. What happens to the pulse rate while someone is sleeping? The body needs to release less energy. And remember, there's still a pulse rate as our brain, we still, for example, have rapid eye movement during the night, and we still sort of use energy. For example, rapid eye movement, REY, occurs during the night, which requires energy, and that still requires a pulse. Oxygen needs to be delivered. We still need a lot of energy, and the release of energy, So oxygen and glucose need to reach muscle cells slowly. So blood is pumped around the body slower, so the pulse is slower. And yeah, we have officially ended the circulation system. Let's move on to the breathing system. What is breathing? The breathing system is used by the body to get oxygen needed for respiration. It is also used to get rid of waste product of respiration, the gas carbon dioxide. Breathing in and breathing out are separate processes in the body. Breathing in is also known as inhalation. When you inhale, you breathe in air, including oxygen, into your lungs. Breathing out is also known as exhalation. When you exhale, you breathe out the contents of your lungs and getting rid of the waste gas carbon dioxide. What happens when you breathe in? Front of your chest, side view of chest. air into the lung. Alright, so just make sure to copy this down, or ideally take a screenshot or photo of this and print it out and stick it into your notepad, as this is quite vital but not the most important. Now, in the lungs, oxygen travels to thousands of tiny air sacs called alveoli. They are covered with tiny blood vessels. The alveoli give the lung a huge surface area, which is equal to the size of a tennis court. Now, the reason why the alveoli have such a humongous surface area is so that they can absorb lots and lots and lots of oxygen. Another adaptation of the alveoli is they are very moist on the surface, so oxygen can diffuse very easily. There are loads of blood vessels, so the oxygen can go into our blood. And those are many of the adaptations. Have a go at labeling this diagram. Make sure, if possible, make sure to print this out and have a go. So, gas exchange takes place in the alveoli. Oxygen is transformed into the blood and carbon dioxide moves out of the blood. Capillary, alveolus, wall of alveolus. Each alveolus has a thin wall so that gas exchange between the lungs and the body can take place quickly. Now, make sure to write this down, the things that I highlight. Once you're done, maybe you should pause the video, and once you're done, you should unpause it. So what happens when you breathe out? Oh gosh. I'm pretty sure we have already had a look at this, but yes. Oh no, this is different, I'm so sorry. So this is a diagram of what happens when you breathe out. If you can, make sure to print this out and stick it into your book, although it's not really vital. So what are the differences between inhaled and exhaled air? So, inhaled air is made up of 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, 0.04% carbon dioxide, and an unknown, in this case, percentage of other, although I would have to add this up. Exhaled air, nitrogen is 78%, oxygen 17%, carbon dioxide 4%, and other. So have you noticed a pattern? Nitrogen is not used by our body in gas exchange. Therefore, all the nitrogen that is inhaled is exhaled. Only a portion of the oxygen we inhale is utilized, and the rest is exhaled. Whereas a lot of carbon dioxide is released, which is counted as a waste product. How could you test for the differences between inhaled and exhaled air? First of all, right, so I did a bit of research and I found an experiment that could be utilized. So what is the lime water test? So the lime water turns milky in the presence of carbon dioxide, so it can be used to show the differences between inhaled inspired air and exhaled expired air. The lime water immediately turns milky on contact with exhaled air. Now I did a bit of research, maybe you could find different experiments, and yes. Oh, and also, before I forget, inhaling is an endothermic, well, isn't really an endothermic reaction. You would have to do some research on that too. I haven't found much about gas exchange, but I can confirm that respiration is an exothermic reaction, as of course it releases energy. However, I can't really talk about gas exchange in this case. Alright, so we have completed the following: releasing energy, the circulation system, the breathing system. Now let's move on to anaerobic respiration. So before we start, you must remember that aerobic respiration is the release of energy with the presence of oxygen, whereas anaerobic respiration is the release of energy without the presence of oxygen. So aerobic respiration, yeah, we already said that. So aerobic respiration, when the body is able to supply the cells with oxygen and glucose that they need, it carries out aerobic respiration. Glucose plus oxygen, making carbon dioxide plus water plus energy, which is a byproduct. Let me just write this down, jot it down. Now make sure to jot this formula down, as it might pop up in an exam, and it's worth knowing. So anaerobic respiration. When the body cannot supply the cells of oxygen needed to break down for glucose, then it has to carry out anaerobic respiration. Energy is released without oxygen. Now, whenever you exercise, you might have an oxygen debt or not enough oxygen to supply your body with oxygen. So your body will start using anaerobic respiration. And the problem with anaerobic respiration is that there's a formula. That's not really the problem. But when most animals do anaerobic respiration, we have a lactic acid buildup, which is pretty much toxic to our body. That's why when you exercise, you might have that burning sensation in your muscles. That's because lactic acid builds up in your muscles. Glucose makes lactic acid plus energy. Now remember, glucose makes lactic acid plus energy only applies to mammals and animals, but plants have a different aerobic respiration formula. So, not enough oxygen. This is called oxygen debt. So glucose plus lactic acid, glucose makes lactic acid does make it, but yeah. When anaerobic respiration takes place, the lactic acid produced soaks the muscle cells and prevents the muscle from doing the job. This causes fatigue and sometimes cramp. After activity that has led to anaerobic respiration, the person involved pants, breathing heavily. This happens because they need lots of oxygen to get rid of the lactic acid that has built up in their body. Lactic acid plus oxygen makes carbon dioxide and water. Complete these word equations. Pause the video if you need to. Hopefully, in the space of time I gave you, you can answer the first question. The word equation for anaerobic respiration in animals, remember, is glucose making lactic acid and energy. Now complete the second question. I'll give you a small space of time. Hopefully I've finished this, and the equation was glucose plus oxygen making carbon dioxide and water. Yay! We have now finished anaerobic respiration topic. Let's do some summary activities to end this topic. Hopefully I have a broad understanding and could understand this is even done after this. Afraid if you don't understand anything, make sure to replay our video. I'll do some research. Attached below in the description or on the following slides should be links to some exam style questions. Aerobic, type of respiration that occurs without oxygen. Alveoli, tiny air sacs in the lungs where gas exchange takes place. Exhalation, the process of breathing out. Anaerobic, the type of respiration that occurs without oxygen. Glucose, a type of sugar that the body releases energy from during respiration. Inhalation, the process of breathing in. Respiration, which is our main topic, is the process that the body uses to release energy from our digested food. How quickly up, and this is already done. Afraid we are unable to do this slide. So thank you for watching this science explanation. If you have any inquiries, leave them in the comment